Yeah, I'm originally from Arkansas, a really, really small town of about 7,000 people, and we have like 3 stoplights, and then we just got 2 of them, which is like crazy. And I've been in LA for 8 years now. I went to college in Savannah, Georgia, and then went to New York and was dancing there, and then came here for a boy. And that didn't work out, but I am so happy I got here because I don't think that I would have come to LA if it had not been for him.
Wow.
And I don't think a lot of the things that have come my way would have happened if I didn't live here, so.
Oh yeah, tell us more about that, because like the whole thing is about like anti-bullying and self-love, so I know you must have like an awesome story you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, so when I moved here, I was dancing still, and I started teaching fitness too, and the guy that I was dating, I don't know, we were both very young, and so I think that me doing things sometimes sort of, I think he felt like he had to control me in a sort of way.
Oh, right. I've been in that type of relationship too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do, especially when we're young. It's
exactly, yeah.
You just want to believe that people are good. And he is a good person, but overall, I was happy that that ended because once that ended, I started doing a lot of musical theater stuff and doing a bunch of shows out here. And I think that sort of helped me find myself and like find more worth in like what I want to do and like how I behave in the world, which is awesome. And then teaching fitness like really opened a lot of doors for me because it's kind of fun to be in something where it's not necessarily about you and you're helping people in a way.
Right.
And then just like lots of opportunities came from me teaching because I teach like very differently. Like I'm very like sassy and like have a lot of like funny things I say when I teach just to make people like catch them off guard because fitness in general makes people kind of there's a lot of insecurity that comes along with people's bodies.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Yeah, because I know I had another like fitness person on, and she was saying the same stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think I definitely went through like a learning curve with myself in teaching because I'd be like, oh, the show's about me. Like I can say and do and be whatever I want, and if I want to be like bitchy to somebody, I can, and that's just not how you do like customer service. And so I learned some lessons that way, which was a good thing in the long run, but you know, I wish I would have known those things just all along.
Right. So I was gonna ask you, probably my first question definitely is like, what is self-love? What does it, when you think of self-love, what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, self-love is truly being able to look at yourself objectively and nicely in a way, and just thank yourself for being in the position that you are, and also doing the things that you truly want to do, and not having to apologize for that or ask for someone's permission. And I mean, obviously, don't do bad things, but you know, like have something that is good and allows you to just express yourself fully. To me, that's what self-love is.
Definitely. Do you have a story growing up or anything that has to do with like bullying that you've been through it and then what you learned from it?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, growing up in a small town in the South is very difficult, especially when you're different. And like me, what I say being different is like just being gay. And like I wasn't out at that point like growing up, but I mean, I did gymnastics like all growing up, and that was like a big thing. Like everybody, I mean, I've heard everything under the sun when it comes to like gay slurs and stuff like that. So it's like it definitely took a toll on me when I was a kid. I used to be so conscious of what people said about me, and I always was like very hard on myself to try to like fit in or like be quiet or like not enough. And eventually you learn that that's just not possible. That's just not who you are, and that's just not who I am. Like I don't sit there and take things anymore.
Right.
But I remember a specific time in high school. It was like the last week of senior year, and in our computer class we had we were making like websites. I mean, this was when computers were like not that great like they are now.
No, I know.
And we all had to put our pictures like in like a collective like hard drive, and so some of the football players on the team like printed off like some of my senior pictures and like literally papered the main hallway of our school in my picture, and were like, "Hey boys," like in all rainbow letters and stuff. Like,
wait, that's extreme.
It was. I mean, yeah, it was really bad. And
Wait,
then
I know you must have been it must have been hard going through that moment, right?
yeah, I mean, it definitely is not fun to deal with that,
No.
especially in high school. It's like so traumatic, or feels so traumatic, and everything's like super heightened.
Exactly, because you feel like this is it. This is like the end of my life, right?
Yeah, like I'm done. Like
That's
this is what everybody thinks about me.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, thank you for figuring out me before I knew me. But I remember this other time in biology class. There was the quarterback of the football team was sitting right behind me and stuck like a note like on my back. It was like, kick me hard, I'm really gay, or something like that.
Oh, man.
And this girl in the back of the class, and because I was in the front row, and this girl in the back of the class came in, like grabbed it from my back and put it on my desk. And it was just I just remember like my entire body like drenched in like sweat.
Right.
So
uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. It was just really bad. And luckily, my parents are super liberal and like very accepting and loving people.
Oh, that's
so I definitely,
awesome.
and their friends were like that, but on the outside of that, it was very, very tough.
Right. Oh, that's awesome that you had that, because a lot of my guests or something didn't have that part of it.
Absolutely
So
not.
it's like, wow, you have awesome parents for that.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's like you had that support system that brought you, gave you that self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
To be who you are.
I mean, it was
awesome.
nice. It was nice. It was like hard for I think my mom probably has struggled with it the most because she was very popular in school.
Oh, really?
So she never understood like why I wasn't, I guess, like accepted, and like which would sometimes like guilt me into feeling like bad about that. But I think she was just doing the best she could because she did, and was trying to be sympathetic, but also it was tough sometimes because I felt like I needed somebody to like be in my corner a little bit more. And my dad definitely was that because he definitely wasn't like super popular in school. But they do the best they can. That's like the crazy thing about parents is that you realize that they're imperfect people trying to make it work too.
Right, exactly. You realize that as you get older and you try to become adult. Because I had that gap too, where it's like now I want to become a man and grow up, and they were still at this point where it's like, no, you have to like listen to us. And so there's always that like tension where like you're trying to be an adult and your parents are, but if you look at it, they're really just looking out for you always because they don't want you to get hurt. So it's like it's this dynamic. I was thinking like, so I'm like in a real serious relationship, like about to get married and have all that, and it's like now I see it differently. Like, well, I don't want my kids to like, their hurt will be my hurt.
Yep.
So I see through my parents, like, oh, I see what they're going through. You don't want your child to be like ever suffering.
No, I mean, it's like no one wants to see their kid go through anything like tough or hard or whatever. They want it to be as easy as they can. But when you're like quote unquote different,
right,
it's hard to gauge that, and you just kind of have to just be open and just listen.
Right. I was looking at your feed with the whole burlesque thing. Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Wow, and you look great doing it. Like, you look good. Everything about it is awesome. Like, how did you get to that level? That is awesome.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like
tell you when I was in the video, I was like, man, I'm so impressed when I was looking at your feed, and just that whole, like, the whole thing is just like, wow, like, congrats on that.
Thank
you. God,
Thank
man,
you.
Looks good.
I mean, I've been dancing for like 12 years now. Like, I started dancing my second year of college, so I'm aging myself now. And I always like loved burlesque stuff, but I never saw a boy do it the way that I wanted to.
Right, that's why I liked it so much, because like it's different, it's fresh, you're doing it just awesome.
Yeah, and I truly never thought that I would ever get the chance to do it. Like, I just didn't think that would be an option for me. And then last September, so I'm not even doing it for a full year, it's just like since last September, so it'll be a year coming up. And I auditioned for Dita Von Teese. Do you know her?
No, of
she's
course
like,
I know her. She's like a household name.
Yeah, I would hope like everybody knows who she is.
No, of course everyone knows her.
And I auditioned for her show. A friend of mine told me about it. She's a big burlesque performer too. Her name's Miss Miranda, and I like thank her so much for having my back with all these things too. And I went to the audition. I thought there was like a backup dancing job because there's guys that are in Dita Von Teese's show that like dance and like support her.
Right.
And I had been at a point in my dance career where I was like, I don't necessarily want to do that. And so I went in being like, okay, I'm just gonna go because I want to like meet her because she's like one of my idols.
Right.
And like 2 weeks later after the audition, I make it all the way through. 2 weeks later, I sit down with her personally, and she's like, I'm going to be teaching you my martini glass number, which she's been doing forever. It's like her signature number. And I I literally started crying.
I would
because
too.
I literally I couldn't stop saying, this doesn't happen. Like,
right.
She was like, it doesn't. She was
wow.
like, so, and she was like,
Wait, did she tell you why it was something about you that she
really
wanted to put
she's
you
sort of like wanting to pass on some of the numbers that she's been doing for a long time and sort of reimagine them, and she'd always wanted a guy to do it, and it was not until she saw me at the audition she was like, he's the one that needs to do it. And I was like, that is so crazy.
No, that is.
So I did a full week of rehearsals with her, like learning stuff, and it was hard. Like, I mean, I'm a dancer, I can like turn and kick and split and all that stuff, but learning the way that she does, like taking off her stockings and like taking off articles of clothing, it's very specific and also like very hard. And she's been doing it forever, so it looks really easy, and like learning it, I was very, I just had to tell myself, like, enjoy the learning process. You don't have to be perfect right away, which is a hard thing always for me. I always want to be like as good as I can, as quick as I can.
Right.
And so I did that show in September 15th, I think was the date of the show. And then after that, I was like, she kind of saw in me this like blurring the line between masculinity and femininity, and I was like, that is so sexy to me. And I think that androgyny is so beautiful.
Definitely.
So I was like, I'm gonna run with this and see what I can do. And it's been, the world has like truly opened up to me, and I didn't expect that, because it's a little different. It's not drag. It's not necessarily a boy. It's like sort of this blurring the line. And
that's why I thought it was so awesome when I reached out to you. I was like, it's different and it's exciting. Like,
yeah, and it feels like personally mine. Like, no one is responsible for it, or like responsible for pushing it along besides me.
Right.
Like, I'm in charge of it. Like,
exactly.
no one's like, when are you booking something next? Like, when are you doing this next? And I'm like, no one has that except for me. So
congrats on that. That's an awesome feeling in its own.
It's truly so. It's like, I'm just so thankful that I get to do it, and I'm thankful that people are responsive. But the best part about it to me is that I'm dancing for myself.
Right.
Like, when I'm up there, I'm having the most fun, because I was like, this is the way I've always wanted to dance, and now I can. So
exactly.
It's awesome.
It probably took you a lot to get to that, right? Like a lot of like ups and downs.
Yep.
And what were some of the things that you went through that were like hardships that got you to that point?
Well, I think that for me, the feminine expression stuff, that was me as a kid. Like, I'd always like dress in my like grandmother's like nightgowns, like put on all this big costume jewelry and like parade around, and she would just kind of let me. My grandmother was like, on my dad's side, she was like my safe place.
Right.
Like, I could go and be the little kid that played with Barbies, and like the little boy that played with Barbies in front of her, and there was never a moment where she looked at me like something was wrong with me, or it was like
awesome,
bad or whatever. And I'm very thankful for her, and she passed away my sophomore year of high school. So it's been a long time since she's been on the earth with me, but like, she's like truly my like guiding light in life, because she's just a like all around like loving person and accepting person, and that's who I just aspire to be like in terms of her. And to get to the point where I am now, like dancing, boys are always encouraged to be like as masculine as possible, and I've done like shows like West Side Story and like Peter Pan and Cats, and it's all very like strong, masculine, like you have to be that like masculine presence, which I love that, and I love that, but it's just not naturally who I am.
Right.
So when I got to do Cats, it was sort of this like exploration for me of like, you're kind of hidden behind this like cat painted face, this like unitard, and you can move in like a really like sexual kind of like slinky way, and I like, that's just the way my body naturally wants to move, and I always felt like I had to hide that or like combat that, and to be able to embrace that and explore that.
Yeah, how did you get to that feeling where you could embrace it? So for like listeners that are kids and they're still like at that where they're not certain who they are and so how did you break through that? So
I mean,
their advice on it.
For me, it was just time. Like, I back in my early 20s, I was not ready for that. You know, like,
so like just let it come when it comes type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, don't force it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people it's really easy for them to just like be themselves and go right into it, which is awesome. And we live in a day and age where people can see themselves. Yeah, and that's really cool. But you know, for us, that was like the internet came around while we were growing up, and then Instagram literally in 2011 is when it like happened.
Exactly.
And so it's like, it's interesting, like the world being connected now, because you can see so many different things. But us, like growing up, you kind of just saw like a few versions of what you could be.
Exactly.
And so when I started a few years ago, I did a job for Cosmopolitan magazine as a unicorn,
Right.
and I like interviewed celebrities, and it allowed me to be like more feminine expression, like crazy and like loud, and it was a character version of myself, which was, I think, probably the best way for me to become comfortable with it, because it was like not me but me,
Right.
and it allowed me to just like explore every aspect of me,
Right.
which was great because it opened up that I could be like a separate version of myself and let that live, and then just be normal on the outside of that.
Right.
I think that job really made it okay for me to explore that aspect of myself.
That's awesome, man.
And to get paid to do it didn't help. Like helped too. So
Right.
that was great.
I was gonna ask you, how do you deal with like internet trolls, or just when you see negative things on your comments? How do you deal with that kind of stuff? That cyberbullying.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like for 95% of the stuff that I get is super positive, and it's really cool because I think people can see the authenticity in it and see that it's truly authentic to me. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not putting on airs to be somebody else. It's just like me in all aspects, good or bad. And but for the that 5% that is really negative, I mean it's stuff I've heard before. It's like gay slurs, it's whatever.
How do you deal with that?
For me, I have to look at it as like, first of all, in many ways, I always have to think of it as like, thank you for taking the time and wasting your time watching my video and commenting.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Thank you. You're stupid for even wasting your time if you didn't like it.
Exactly.
Why would you waste time saying something?
That's what I'd be thinking too.
And it has nothing to do with me in all aspects. Like it's everything to do with them, and like they're not comfortable in their own skin.
Big time.
And then to also, it's like, I am so happy with what I'm doing in my life that no one's opinion is going to stop me from doing that.
Right.
But that takes time to get there, like, of course. And I think, I remember like back in the day when I was a kid and people would be like, oh, you're gay or something. It used to it was always said in a way that's like, that's not the way you're supposed to be. So I think a lot of gay people, I think, feel that way too, where it's like finally admitting that, but also getting over that like bad rap of being gay, quote unquote.
Right.
And so I think that it's definitely taken me time to like come to terms with myself, but I'm so happy that I did, because now I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I want.
I know, I felt like this awesome energy the second you got here. It was like such a great, like it was refreshing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was like easy questions, like just jump into it and start talking. It was like, it's like when someone's confident with themselves, it's like they give off a great vibe. So it's like awesome. It's like it's been easy to just like talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been tough. Like last year specifically, before I started doing burlesque stuff, the unicorn job had ended. But in that job ending too, I was in a relationship for 2.5 years with a person I thought that I was going to marry.
Yeah.
And like, we moved in together. It was like on the track to like getting engaged, stuff like that. And he was not okay with me doing the more feminine expression stuff.
Oh, man.
So it was this really tough moment for me, because I was so happy and so proud of all this success that was coming with the unicorn job. And it felt like I couldn't be excited about it in front of him.
Oh, I know that feeling. Man, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and then that ended, and then like 6 months went by of me doing the unicorn job, and it was like gung-ho, so much was happening and fast, and then it literally ended, like, and it felt to me, it was like tough for me, because it was like all these doors that I thought had opened and were amazing, they just started closing in around me, and I was like, I had lost my relationship with this job is over now, and I loved it so much. So last February and March, January through March basically, I went through a really, really dark time where I just felt like everything was closing for me, and I felt hopeless, and I don't want to say I had like suicidal thoughts, but there were times where I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh man, how did you get through that?
It was really scary, because I'm naturally like a really positive person, like can see the silver lining in things, but it was so, I could not get out of my own way in terms of like a depression, and so I started going to therapy, and that like I mean, that like changed my life.
Really?
It was so amazing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get scared to go to therapy because it's like that's the first step, accepting that you know you need help. But that's the best step, isn't it?
I mean,
because look, you're saying that it was the best thing for you to go in there and get that help, and then so what got you to? Were you at that point where you're like, I don't really want to go to therapy at first? Or you
yeah, I just felt like I didn't need it. I was like, I'm fine, like I got this, like whatever. And then this happened, and then when I got to therapy, it started like there was some stuff that I started really diving into, especially like some stuff from like being a kid and stuff I went through that I never really talked to anybody about, and honestly hadn't really thought about in like a really detailed way. And so that really truly helped me like move on and accept myself, and also just look at myself objectively, and also be nicer to myself, and realize that perfection isn't possible, but doing what makes you happy is.
That's great. I was going to ask you, going off that, so if you were, you know, if you'd have to give some advice to like you when you were going to school or administration, just advice to schools on how they could like help the system or their school combat bullying, what would be some of your advice? How could schools prevent it?
I mean, I remember when that the hallway picture thing happened. My principal, I mean, there was literally only a week left of my school, like being a senior, and he literally was like, "Well, we can't." He's like, and I was like, "I know who did it. Like, I know who did it," and he literally wouldn't do anything about it.
But you wish they would have done something.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just not okay to treat anybody like that. And you got to set the standard. Like if you don't punish that, what else are you making okay?
Exactly.
Like, that's not right.
But they just let it slide.
Yeah, because these were football players. Like these were like the stars of our school.
I know. That's funny how that is, because like I have a couple of friends that are really close of mine, friends of mine, and they come over for dinner, and they're in the NFL, and yeah, things were just sliding for them too. Like when it came to academics, it's like wow, that's.
And my hometown is kind of centered around the football team, so it's like everything revolves around that. Like it's very Friday Night Lights shit, you know. But it's like it's so I don't even know what schools need to do, but I think it's just like just listen to people and believe them. And I think in this day and age, it's really interesting, like seeing all these people feeling comfortable to come out and talk about either coming out or sexual assault or anything like that. All these people, it's like believe these people. They're not making it up. Like I would never make up a story of people papering my picture down the hallway with rainbow letters all over it. Like why would I make that up?
What would have made you feel more comfortable, or what would have made you happier? Maybe just like having a conference where they sat down and talked to that person with you in the room, or just knowing that they sat them down and actually had a serious talk with them?
Yes, I don't want to be present for that because it's like it's not my business why they did that. You know, that's just not for me to know. But
some kind of like talking to letting them know this isn't okay.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just not acceptable to do, especially when you're a kid, because it feels so traumatizing. Even though I was 18, you're still a child.
Exactly, that would have been an awesome thing to do. What do you think in this day and age where we have like social media and all that? How do you think do you think they could like incorporate that into schools?
I mean, I think they really need to, because there's so many people that go through anxiety and depression because of social media stuff. I mean, we all fall into it, I think, in a way, because you compare yourself and like you see some people doing amazing and you're like, I'm not doing what they do, and it's like you don't even know what they go through. Like they could be like, you know, the worst person alive and you have no idea.
Exactly.
But I think people really need to talk about that, because I think growing up in an age where social media wasn't a thing and you actually like had to pick up the phone and call somebody, it's like you actually engage with people. And I think now it's so easy to go on your phone and try to engage with people, but these people aren't. You're not getting the real thing. It's just this perceived image of somebody, and you can put what you want on these people. It's like and it's like that's naturally celebrity culture in general, and like we obviously do that with like actors and actresses growing up. But like now people can do that on social media and be like, oh, I know them, and you don't know anything. Like truly, like you have no idea what anybody's going through.
No, definitely not. So I was going to ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with everything that's going on with you? What do you inspire, like your vision? I know you already have your goals and they're already happening, but what's your vision? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I would love to have my own like burlesque show that travels around, or it's like here in LA. Like I would love that, and have it like be like a fully realized show where it incorporates me and a bunch of my friends that perform, and just I would love that, just to be like a creative outlet to create whatever I wanted.
Right.
But I would also, there's a big part of me that wants to do like a roundtable talk show in terms of like The View, but like with like different people,
awesome.
like boys, girls, any ethnicity, all sexual orientations. Like I think that would be so fun to do. So I don't know, I'm just open to whatever performing, but like mainly my goal would be to have like my own show. I would love that.
What would it just be about? Like, would you just have guests on?
Yeah, I think what I would do is like have like I want it to be like sort of a through line, like a storyline. And there's a show in New York called Sleep No More. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's really cool. It's the story of Macbeth. So it's in this old hotel. Yeah, it's in this old hotel. People follow the characters around. It's a dance show. I think that'd be so cool for burlesque, like this really sexy, intimate thing where you're following different people. So it's like if you came back to the show, you would get a total different experience if you were following somebody else.
Right.
You know?
No, I get what you're talking
So that's my goal. I think I'm determined for that to happen because I'm like, some of the things that I thought would never happen to me have happened, and I'm like, don't limit yourself in what you're dreaming. Like you can achieve it.
Right.
Truly.
That's awesome. I see it happening because you're already going towards that. So it's like, I definitely think I see that in your future for
Thank
sure.
you.
You're welcome.
It's just fun. Like I don't know. I'm just excited for what I'm doing because it's like I feel like I'm really creating my own path, and that's sort of in my life what I've always wanted to do is like not follow anybody's rules, just like do what I would like to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I did. Do you think was it harder for you to move from where you came to LA? Because I know LA is like a city, and so
Yeah.
what were the ups and downs? What did you learn? Like, what were the ups and downs that you learned?
Well, I mean, I'm a pretty tough person. I'm a pretty adaptable person because I'm always like watching and listening,
Right.
and I can figure out how to maneuver. But it's like it's tough when you're become an adult and you're like forced to just like make it happen for yourself. I would always feel like it's my fault if someone didn't like me or said something bad about me. I'm like, I would really take it super personally and feel like, oh my God, like, what did I do?
Right. And
it's such a waste of time.
Exactly. And then I got to that point where it was like, wait, I don't need. And you know another thing, I don't know, like people ever touch on this topic, but it's like, if you're winning, like you're doing awesome things. If the people in your circle are not 100% rooting for you, a neutral is a bye-bye to me now.
No.
Like, I'm winning. Like, I'm having a great podcast. I'm doing this. If the person's not like 100% like celebrating your wins with you, I don't think you need them around.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that too?
Absolutely.
And I've been going through that recently too, like weeding out the bad people. It's like, hey, you're neutral for my 100% win. I don't want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
it's like there was a guy that I was sort of dating like a few months ago, and he would always, when I would talk about, well, on our first date, he literally, after our first date, he told me, he was like, I didn't expect to like you as much as I do. I thought that you were going to be like over the top, like ridiculous and stuff. He was like, I still don't know how I feel about the burlesque stuff. And I was like, let me stop you right there.
Right, because look, you met me and I'm 100, I wanted you on. I think it's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing awesome stuff.
And what was sad for me,
neutral is weird, right?
No,
exactly.
I don't
You're winning.
I don't need that in my life.
Exactly.
And it was like, what was stupid for me is I continued to like try. I was like, okay, I'm gonna like convince, basically in my head, like subconsciously, it was like, I'm gonna convince him that I'm worth it.
You know, because you don't need to like
came to bite me in the ass.
Right,
Like
you don't need someone to like doubt your wins. You're winning. This is awesome. You're doing great stuff. You're getting paid for it. You don't need to feel like awkward about your wins.
No.
Exactly.
And I know I perform in a lot of drag shows out here in LA, and it's like it's very tough for people in that world to date because people. There's like
in your industry type thing?
Yeah, I think it's like, even like a lot of the burlesque girls that I perform with, it's like tough for them to date because people expect them to be super slutty or like really like nasty or naughty. And it's like, no, this is just my expression.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a fully realized person that you can get to know, and this just happens to be something that I do and love to do. Right. So what's the problem?
Right.
Like I would never look at somebody who's like obsessed with sports and be like, I'm not into that. Like that's just what you're in. No, that's so stupid.
Exactly. It's like that. Like you don't need to feel down about being great.
No, absolutely not. And I think that for me, that's what I would teach myself as a younger person. I would be like, don't waste time hoping that someone will come around to what you love.
And I feel like I know this is like tough love or whatever. It's like you don't owe anyone anything. Like let's say it's like whatever we're like humans and we're supposed to evolve. Like even at the beginning when we were cavemen, it's like we're trying to grow, we're trying to evolve. Like let's make fire.
Yep.
Let's start to like evolve. Let's try to grow. Like let's progress. And it's like I don't think you have to feel sorry that you outgrow people.
No.
Right? And I had that problem for the longest. Like I felt like I owed this person this because like we grew up together, and I felt like I owed you something. It's like and it's like no, you don't. If we don't progress and evolve, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, my parents have a really fun saying, they're like, life is very long, but it's also super short.
Exactly.
So you better do something that makes you super happy.
Exactly.
And don't apologize for it.
Exactly. And I wish I knew that advice when I was younger, like, because it's like, it stunts your growth sometimes, because like, you are the energy you keep, like that's when I started noticing, even like, with the, like, I'll give you an example, like I would have like an anti-bullying assembly at school and I would get it, I was so excited. I still had people in my mix that weren't 100% like, oh my god, this is awesome. It was like a neutral, like, oh, okay, and it's like, wait, but this is an awesome thing. You should be
like your fun little project.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like, see, and then I started like weaving them out, and it's like, you don't have to feel sorry, I feel like, for, taking people out of your life that you don't feel are giving you the energy you deserve.
Mm-mm.
I know it's selfish, but I think self-love and like that helps you learn to love yourself, and then you let the right people into your mix.
Yeah. And I think that's an important lesson in general. Is just like it's okay to be selfish.
Exactly.
And to do what's truly best for you. I mean, don't hurt people along the way and do stupid stuff, but you have to do what's right for you. Mm-hmm. And if somebody's not bringing something to your life that's good, I don't think that they're worth it.
Exactly, and it's like I've had that problem too, where I didn't feel like I let that energy get to me, like and I was like self-doubting myself.
Yeah.
But it's like I think a lot of people go through that, where it's like you don't have to feel sorry for your wins.
No,
like if you're winning and you're doing good, everyone around you should be like 100% applauding you, right?
Yes, and especially if it's something different, I feel like that's something to be applauded more because it takes so much more courage to do stuff like that.
Exactly. And I feel like, I don't know, how did you personally get through that, where you were like, hey, I don't need to feel sorry about being great? Now, of course, if you're doing like things that are not good, like, you get into trouble, it's like, well, the people around you are going to be giving you like, why are you doing this? But when you're doing like, you got a nice job or you got a nice car, and they're like, oh, well, that car isn't, this color. That's the type of energy I'm talking about, where it's like, oh, that's a nice shirt, but it's like last season.
Yes. Or I saw it on sale somewhere. Okay.
Exactly.
Like, what do you want me to say?
That's the kind of stuff that I'm like learning, that even though it's so like me, like it's not even a big deal, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like I got this nice shirt. I don't want you to say it's like on sale. See, that's the type of thing I'm talking about. How did you weave those out?
I mean, to me, it's been really tough for me because I do naturally care what people think, and so I have to fight super hard against that to be like, no, you can't accept that. Like that's not okay. I just think it's time, to be honest. And also, like, being in your 30s is like, I've always heard that, like, you start to give less fucks, like, to be honest.
Exactly.
And I think that genuinely comes with age. I just do. And there's people that I've met that are super young that don't. They're just, like,
people pleasers and like.
Or opposite of that, like, just so self-assured they don't need anybody's approval. And I'm like, it's so admirable to me, and I, like, relate so well to that now. But, like, back then, absolutely not. I was like that. I put up with a lot of stuff for people that I should not have.
Me too. I was the master. Like that's the whole reason why I started this whole like anti-bullying campaign and this podcast. Because when I was in school, my biggest thing was I just wanted people to like me. So I would hang out with groups of people that I thought were cool, but I was like the runt, the guy that was getting bullied day by day. But it was like, well, I just want them to like me. But in the long run, I suffered so hard, like my self-esteem, everything, because it was like
you're not being yourself.
Exactly. And I wanted all these people to like me, and it was like, wait, let me try to be cool. I mean, it was just like, what am I doing? And I'm just getting. It was like the typical like, you're in this group of people, but you think they're so cool. They're like I would have situations where I would just want to hang out so badly that like grab my chips, eat it, and then throw it away. And I'm like, it's cool, it's fine. Like and I thought it was like I just want to hang out. So it's like. You don't deserve that, and it really, that's kind of like what self-love is about, because if you love yourself, you don't deserve to be treated like someone's doormat.
No. It's a hard thing to overcome, too, and like,
exactly.
It's old, I mean, I think as, like, a society, we're taught to not fully accept yourself. Like, you always should be striving to be better, more, which is good, but also you got to learn to like love where you are and love who you are, because at the end of the day, you're the only person that can make yourself truly happy.
Seriously. So as this podcast is coming to an end, my last question would be, for anyone that's listening, that's a student, adult, anyone that right now is going through a time that they feel like, you know, they're depressed, or it's, you know, they're just not feeling happy about their life, what would be your advice to them?
I think for me, it's like, make sure you give yourself enough time to appreciate yourself. Like, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow, it doesn't have to happen today, but just know that you're on a journey to find that. And if there's something that you're truly passionate about or you've ever wanted to try, especially in the arts, I think the arts really get an artistic outlet, because I think it helps you see yourself in such a positive light. And for me, I always promote, like, if there's something you've been wanting to do it, because you might not ever get the chance. And you don't want to be, I always think about, like, I don't want to be 70 and look back and be like, damn, I wish I would have tried this. I wish I would have gone for it. Right. Like, there's literally nothing in my life that I don't feel like I'm not completely going after the way that I want to. Of course, I want more for myself, obviously, but I just think if I died tomorrow, I would be so happy with, like, what I've done, like, what I've accomplished. Like, there's nothing that I don't regret anything now, and I don't wish that I would have done something. And that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, do it now, don't wait. And I know it's really hard to try to pull the trigger on some of these things sometimes, but just give yourself the time, because it will happen if you really want it to.
Right, that's awesome. I think that's a great way to go out on.